Welcome to another episode of Asexuality, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live. Like now, I'll post a new video on YouTube. And also, if you are on Facebook right now, don't forget to click the follow button on the Asexualise page and to like the page. And yes, make sure you are following these videos. So welcome to the people on YouTube and on Facebook. So today I want to talk to you about why it's super important to learn about different asexual perspectives. Now, you might be thinking, oh, do I need to know about different asexual perspectives? When you're first discovering about asexuality, it's very imperative that you gather lots of different views and information and perspectives about different parts of asexuality, because asexuality is although it's a sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction, there's a huge spectrum of different types of asexuals, and within the spectrum of different types of asexuals there are like subcategories, sub-spectrums, if you like. And so it's really, really important that you actually learn different parts of the asexual spectrum so you can find out where you fit in most. You might find that just one term for you isn't enough, that you end up using different parts of different terms to describe different parts of your asexuality. The benefit, obviously, of learning about different asexual perspectives is there's usually someone always that you can relate to in some ways, and this is good for your confidence to know you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, and you do have a place and fit in somewhere, right? Because as asexuals, we all know that it can be very lonely at times. It can be very like you're disconnected from the outside world because a lot of it is sexual talk and there's so much sex on TV and it kind of drives you crazy, and people don't really understand how a relationship could function without sex in it, right? A lot of our society still pumps that at us. So it's really important that you understand different asexual perspectives in order to kind of form a really good idea about all the different parts of the asexual spectrum and how people function within those different parts. It might be that one asexual, for example, who's a heteromantic, hardly likes any kissing. They like a little bit of cuddling, holding hands. They're not overly romantic, and they don't mind sharing a bed, but they'd rather sleep in their own bed, that type of thing. Then you might find another heteromantic, for example, who's really into kissing, really into like nakedness. They like touching all over the body because they're a sensual person. They love being really close and kissing and cuddling. They do pretty much everything, even maybe do some sex acts, but not sex itself. And so you've got these two extremes that both count themselves as heteromantic, for example. And then you've also got different, like, for example, the aromantic part of the asexual spectrum. So the aromantics are those that lack romantic attraction as well as lack sexual attraction. There's like 4 different parts to that. There's pure aromantics that don't experience any romantic attraction, grey romantics who only experience romantic attraction under limited rare specific circumstances, demi-romantics who can only experience romantic attraction once a deep emotional bond has been formed, and obviously cupio-romantics who don't experience romantic attraction, but who desire a romantic relationship. That's like 4 different types of aromantic asexuals. So it's really important when you're discovering asexuality, or even throughout your asexual journey, that you get to know all these different types. There's more different types and categories cropping up within the asexual community than there's ever been. So for people who don't quite understand where they fit in, they kind of don't feel anything fits them exactly, this is to make those people feel kind of like part of something that they currently feel disconnected from, because feeling disconnected from other asexuals and other people in the asexual spectrum is kind of disheartening sometimes. I mean, I don't feel I fully fit in anywhere specifically fixed in the asexual spectrum in terms of my whole identity. I find I fit in. Obviously, I'm definitely heteromantic. I'm only attracted romantically to guys. I'm only attracted to guys. And you know, I just have grey areas that kind of don't really fit anywhere. They're not actually a typical grey asexual because I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, but I have some sexual behaviour, you know, in the way I like to kiss and stuff. And so, you know, I find that difficult. And so there's some other people that feel like that, and they're not alone, right? And so, for example, in my Asexual Perspectives book, these are 47 different stories, my own and other people's. Now, I've done it in such a way that I've asked these people specific questions, and I've done this on purpose. So if a person who's asexual comes across this book, they can just like find out what the answer is across a range of different parts of the asexual spectrum, rather than just taking one person's word for it. Because different people across the asexual spectrum will approach different parts of their asexuality and different things in life differently. And so what one person might consider, like I said, I have some sexual behavior with the way I like to kiss. But some people in the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, they might think, well, that's nothing because I am new to repulse. They're not, and they might think, well, it's normal and natural to just kiss loads for asexuals. It's normal to touch the whole body. It's normal to do this, that, and the other, which isn't normal to me to touch the whole body because I'm naked repulsed, right? But you know, that's the beauty of having different perspectives. You can make an informed choice and decision as to where you fall on the asexual spectrum. You can also learn more about yourself through the eyes of other people. Sometimes, you know, they can bring things to your attention that you didn't already know. Now, I get asked questions time and time again that this book answers. This is why I wrote this Asexual Perspectives book, because I kept getting asked questions like, Sandra, if I masturbate, can I be asexual? Sandra, if I watch porn, can I be asexual? You know, and I've even got a question today where the person asked me, Sandra, do you believe sexuality is fluid? The answer to that question is in this book in the very final chapters, right? Very final chapter, I should say, you know? And so I don't want to repeat myself to every single person. All the answers you're seeking are usually in this book. If you're new to asexuality, please go and grab a copy. It's on Amazon. The link's in the description below. You can get it from all good bookshops. You don't have to get it online. You could walk into a bookstore and order it, you know, because it's on my own publishing company. It's got its own ISBN, so you can universally order it, right? No matter what country you live in. Someone found this book, other publisher found this book in an LGBT bookshop in London, for example. Right, so you know, but you know, what's your view on living with someone? Because different asexuals have different opinions on that. You know, are you out about being asexual? If not, why not? If you are out, whom to and how did they react? This type of stuff is very important. If you're new to asexuality, especially, or you're thinking about coming out, you need to be kind of forewarned. Forewarned is, oh hi, my life, nice to see you. Forewarned is like when you're forewarned about something, you're more able to deal with it. So that if, you know, if someone's, you know, like, you know what to expect. That's why it's good to take on board different asexual perspectives so that you can find out what others have been through, and you're more likely to be able to get through it yourself because you already know what's likely to possibly happen. And that's kind of the same with the asexual perspectives in terms of where you fall on the spectrum. Is if you think you fall a certain way on the spectrum, you can look at the different perspectives regarding, you know, a similar type of person to you on the spectrum and see if they have similar experiences to you. Then this can validate your own identity, which can give you more confidence in your asexuality and more conviction. And this is great when you're talking about it with other people, you'll be brave and coming out. So it's really good for confidence building. My Life has news. Congratulations, My Life. Go for it. You can write your news in the chat. Lovely to see you, by the way. Lots of love. I'll carry on and you can just write in chat. So, oh, right, you put it, My Life. My boyfriend and I are planning for our hand fasting ceremony in April. Oh, wow, that's great. Congratulations. Mwah, love to you both. And I found out I'm not just great ace, I'm also agosexual. Yeah, that's wonderful. With a sunflower. I love the way you pop a sunflower in there. It's so cute. Oh, wow. Is that like a marriage ceremony, but pagan? Or is it a commitment ceremony? I know it's to do with pagan, isn't it? Ceremony. But what does it symbolize? Is it commitment and everlasting love? Is it instead of marriage? Or you could get married as well if you want to. or how does that work? I've heard of it, and I know other people that have done that, but I've only known them from afar. I haven't known them to actually have a conversation with them about it. So I'll be interested to know about that if you got time to chat. So yeah, so people ask me all the time different questions, different questions, and you know, pretty much all the answers are in here. And some people are like, well, why don't you just tell me answers? But if I told you the answers of 47 different asexuals, it would kind of take me a very long time to do that, and I wouldn't be able to get around all the people. And plus, you know, I don't mind paying for other people's information, because I don't mind paying authors for their work, right? It took me a year to publish this book and write and publish it. My Asexual Guide to Sex has been going since June 2019. I still haven't finished it yet because things have cropped up, but I will be finishing it. It will be out. I'm determined to do it as soon as possible. And so, you know, it's you know, I can't sit here giving the contents of all my book. I do a lot of content, obviously, on this channel because I'm talking about it. I've read loads of stuff out from it, so I'm always giving free content out. But, you know, it's such a good book to just have to hand to put on your shelf. I mean, you can see how much I've read it. Look at the pages. They're crumpled. I have got another copy. My Life. There's different kinds of hand fasting, but ours will be commitment, similar to a promise ring ceremony. I call it a binding of souls. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. That's really sweet. I really, really love it. That's really lovely. It's really lovely. I'm glad you found your soulmate. I know soulmates exist because I know people who are soulmates, including you now. And, you know, and I just know soulmates exist. I haven't found my actual real life soulmate yet. But one day I'm hopeful. But first I've got to do work on myself, I believe. So yes, more work on myself. So it's good. I'm not, you know, I'm kind of like getting more happy just being by myself these days. So it's good. But yeah, I mean, I was, you know, like, you're a prime example of why it's good to learn about different asexual perspectives, because obviously you've discovered more about your asexuality, which I'm assuming is because you've talked to more asexuals or been in more asexual groups, been in forums, been listening to other people and how they describe themselves, and been obviously reading up about the terms. And then I think it's very different just reading about the terms, but actually seeing how they work in practice. Whereas Asexual Perspectives book, obviously you see how it works in practice, not just in theory, which is why this book's great, because a lot of other books, they just give you textbook definitions. They don't really tell you how that person lives with their identity on a day-to-day basis. So that's why it's so good. It's important that we understand how our asexuality is going to affect every different part of our life, because it does, because sex is a major part of society and relationships, and it comes into play in many different types of relationships. For example, there's some sexual harassment that sometimes goes on in the workplace, right? Because you know, unfortunately, people are very sexually driven, right? So sex affects, you know, like your working relationships, your friendships. Some friends want to have sex with you rather than just being your platonic friend or just being a friend to you. And obviously it affects your current relationship or potential relationships. So it's very interesting and good to get different asexual perspectives, because obviously someone you meet might have actually been in a relationship with an asexual before, yet your type of asexuality and how you are might be completely different to them. My Life. Oh, other news. I'm thinking of pursuing a job as an astrobiologist. Oh, wow. I think that might be what one of my entrepreneur friends did, but I think it was 5 years study. I'm not sure if it's an astrobiologist or geometrist or something. I get that confused. It was something to do with the space. My Life. I found out that Asexual from an Instagram and was like, oh my god, wait, I think that's me. So I did some research. Yeah, it's really weird because I found a note to myself today to talk about Asexual, but I think I mentioned it in a previous video a long time ago. But I can always do a video about it. Ambrosexual, Asexual. I think I wrote down both of them. But yeah, so I'm glad. It's a good job you're kind of covering up the sexual bit. So YouTube are kind of naughty because they keep deleting posts, but some of them have got nothing to do with naughty words that shouldn't be used. They just people write normal things and they're getting deleted. And sometimes the porn ones are staying, and I just delete them all the time, you know? So it's kind of crazy where YouTube has got its priorities. But I'm just glad to be streaming again. You know, I'm really happy that I'm here and allowed to do this again. So, you know, I'm thankful to them for that. So, you know, so yes. Yeah, I mean, like you said, my life, when you have, you know, that's your like awakening moment, isn't it? Oh my god, wait, I think that's me. It's just like how it feels when you know, like in my asexual journey, I've discovered more and more about myself, about my body, about my mindset, about how I relate to other people, um about my capacity to be able to be more accepting now of others. I'm a lot more accepting of different types of people, because obviously if you want to be accepted for being different, you have to accept others that are really different, right? You know, like for example, I hate BDSM. One of my close friends, they love parts of BDSM, right? And I talk to them about it, even though I hate it myself. And when I'm talking to them, I don't feel bad because I feel good for them, if you know what I mean. It's kind of weird, because they like that. And so, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I can separate myself from that thing and I absolutely hate it. It's disgusting. But I can talk to them saying, oh, that's really good. So, like, what's going on with that? How are you doing with that? How's that going? And all this rest of it. I'm not going to go into too much personal stuff because obviously their conversations are confidential with me. But do you know what I mean? It's just kind of like I can do that. It's kind of like I've got my professional take on it, like, you know, accept everyone for who they are. And obviously I've got my personal opinion, which is like, don't bring that near me. Right. So it's really interesting. I said I was uncensored in a comment section and YouTube deleted it. I said I was QU. Oh, right. That's interesting. I said I was queer uncensored in a comment section and YouTube deleted it. Yeah, I've seen other people's comments with it stay out, including hate comments, even after I reported them. Yeah, YouTube apparently have been deleting a lot of channels again lately. So, you know, please, 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 if you're watching now, do follow me on Facebook as well, on Twitter. Because, you know, if anything does happen, heaven forbid, again, you know, I really need other people to be able to get to my content, you know. So, you know, I've seen one of my entrepreneur people I follow on YouTube who's got over 5,000 followers now say, you know, that they're deleting stuff, and they you know, like, it is crazy. I mean, when I've been on Twitter, they've removed autism channels and stuff like that, which is really kind of disgusting, I think, because they're doing a service to the community of people that really need understanding of like special needs and, you know, difficulties. And so, you know, I think they should be supporting channels more like autism, asexuality, you know, minority channels that really need help. YouTube trying to censor important information. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, one of my entrepreneur friends, they had their channel for 15 years on YouTube and they deleted it. So it's not just happening to these type of channels. It's just, I think it's just anything that they're not keen on or agree with. But Roshan, hi Roshan. But you know, unfortunately, yeah, it's not so good with that. But I'm happy this channel's back, so it's good. But yes, going back to asexual perspectives, I think it's really important to learn about different perspectives, different parts of the asexual spectrum. So, for example, on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, you know, grey asexual textbook definition is, you know, someone who does experience sexual attraction only in limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or does experience it but not enough to want to act on it. Now, as you can imagine, that's kind of like how long's a piece of string, you know, because it can all be subjective. And this is where it can get quite tricky, because from the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum, that's a bit before the sexual spectrum. So you've got grey asexual, which demisexuals are part of that, and then you've got the sexual spectrum starts. So you've got to be careful in terms of like learning about this stuff, because obviously you've got to understand that there's going to be extremes of grey asexual that's going to be very close to coming on the sexual spectrum. And some people might think they're sexual when they probably would possibly be better fitted in the asexual spectrum, and people that are on the asexual spectrum probably might be better fitting on the sexual spectrum. Obviously it's up to the individual to decide for themselves, but because because there's kind of a line, that because some sexuals, for example, some might only want sex a few times a month. And then they might think, oh well, they only want it in limited, rare, or specific circumstances. The limited circumstances are just for a few times a month. That's not really what grey sexuality is about. And I would not think personally someone's grey ace if they said that to me. But that might be how someone interprets it for them, and they believe it is like that, right? So this is where it can get tricky. Because some sexuals, they don't want loads of sex, where others do. There might be some sexuals that only have sex with their partner once a month. They don't go around saying they're asexual, because they might have a very high sexual attraction, just that actually doing it themselves is not really that, they're not really bothered about it. And then you could say, well, if they're not that bothered about it, why don't they class themselves as grey, you see? But they don't, because they experience sexual attraction in the usual way, just they're not fussed about having too much sex. So this is where it gets very difficult in terms of like trying to find out whether you're sexual or asexual or grey in the middle. And so it's really up for you to decide, but it's very important what that you learn about lots of different perspectives, and then you understand that being if you're sexually attracted to someone in the normal way, you're not asexual, right? And obviously, because we've got to be careful that there's not people coming to the asexual community just declaring they're asexual when they're not, because they haven't had sex for like 3 months because they've been abstaining or haven't found a suitable partner and they've just been doing other things, right? That's not asexuality. So it's really important for your own kind of like asexual well-being to kind of like do a lot of research into it and learn about different parts of the spectrum for yourself, and also how you identify within those parts of the spectrum. Roshan, I'm not asexual, but my girlfriend is asexual. Oh, thank you for being here. Have you got any question, Roshan, that I can answer for you, either in this video or another one? I've got nearly 6 years. Next month will be 6 years of content on this channel, Roshan. So if you need to know about asexuality, you can obviously go back through a lot of my other videos. I hope you subscribed. It's nice that you're supporting your asexual girlfriend. My life, I kind of consider agosexual as under grey ace. It is under grey ace, like a type of it, but I know not everyone will agree with me on that, and it's okay. Agosexual is under grey ace. I identify with both, and I know they have 2 different definitions. Just seems like it's a different form of grey ace, like how Demi is under the grey umbrella. Yeah, so under the grey sexual umbrella is lots of different types of asexuals, and agosexual falls under that usually. Roshan, I have studied a lot about asexuality. That's really good. Have you got my Asexual Perspectives book, Roshan? You can order this off Amazon or any good bookshop. You can just go in there and ask for it. I don't know if you've, because it's got 47 different asexual stories in it. I don't know if you've got that. Because some people are like, oh, I can't get it online because I haven't got the card that's accepted in my country. It's like, you don't need, you can just go into a bookshop and say, I want Asexual Perspectives, 47 asexual stories. And they can just order it for you. You can get it across the globe. It's not something you have to just get online. But I'm really proud that you've learned a lot about asexuality. You've studied a lot. It's really good. And I think your girlfriend must be really happy that you're supporting her in that way. And that, you've learned a lot about asexuality. It proves you really care and love them. I think that's important. There's a lot of guys out there that I just, some guys I think, would maybe, I'll read that book. Yeah. I brought it out in 2017, but it's really relevant to today. I keep getting asked all the same questions over and over again. And it's good because it shows the asexual spectrum over the stories that's told, not just, not just one particular story. It's not just textbook definition. So it puts it all into context. I'm all about context because, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm asexual and this is the textbook definition as I've looked up on the internet that anyone can give you. But it's very different when you're actually living your own part of that orientation in real life circumstances. because it does affect your life on a daily basis, right? And people don't usually talk about this. On a lot of other channels, it's very, very generic stuff a lot of the time. Like, this is what asexual means, this is what demisexual means, this is what grey asexual means. And they have their place. I've done those type of videos myself. But if that's all you're looking at, you know, some person might feel left out. They might feel like, I don't, you know, I recognise that, but I don't really understand how, you know, that totally, because in my situation with my family, my friends, this is going on, that's going on. I can't understand myself quite as well. I don't quite know where I fit in. But the book helps, you know, this book helps you because you can kind of see in real life context how people are in their everyday life in regards to relationships, in regards to, you know, sexual acts, what they like, you know, like would do and not do, in regards to, you know, how the positives of asexuality, in regards to what advice they would give to other asexuals. It's all in here. They've got advice to younger versions of themselves, but also other asexuals. So I think it's important to learn from different perspectives, not just one specific type. Even though I do this channel myself, I think it's really good to learn from different people, you know, very important. So thank you in advance for reading that. Yeah, it's good. But I'm really glad you support your girlfriend. I think it's a shame because there aren't more people like you, you know, because I do see some people and I feel that they're, well, in my case, it's guys. What will be if sex repulsed girls have sex? Okay. Actual question. So if a girl is sex repulsed and they don't want sex, you shouldn't have sex with them because it's like abuse for them. Either they, you know, if they are sex repulsed to the point where they don't want to do it, right, then you shouldn't have sex with them. It means you should either be in the relationship with them without sex and masturbate yourself, or you shouldn't be in the relationship if you want it to be monogamous, if you just want it to be the two of you. Can she enjoy it, or will be there any other? So a sex repulsed asexual usually means that person is repulsed by sex and the idea of sex, and they won't have it unless it's against their will or doing it to please someone else, which is not what you want. So you shouldn't really have sex with a sex repulsed asexual. Obviously, everyone's different, but in general, sex repulsed means someone is repulsed by the idea of sex and they do not want to have sex ever. That usually is a general meaning of what they might be open to do other sexual acts. They might not. They might hate any sexual act whatsoever. So you would have to ask your girlfriend in regards to that. But I would think if they're a sex repulsed asexual, they won't want sex ever. It'll make them feel sick, the idea. And if they do it, it would be because they were pressurizing themselves into it, because maybe you were pressurizing them to do it because you said, oh, if you love me, you'll do it. That type of thing. I'm not saying you're going to do that, but I'm saying that could be the case, right? So if someone's sex repulsed, it usually means they can't have sex, don't want it, don't like it, don't need it. And you should not have sex with a person like that, because it's like, you know, it's like abuse, to be frank with you. You know, if someone doesn't want sex and you're kind of coercing them into it, it's like sexual abuse. So if someone came to me and said, no, I need sex in a relationship, I would say, well, we can't be in a relationship then, because I'm monogamous. I want a guy who's monogamous. So if that guy needs sex, then I can't be with that guy because I can't have sex. I'm repulsed by it. I don't want it. And so therefore that person needs to move on and find someone more suitable for them. Usually a sex repulsed asexual could only be with someone who was themselves okay with not having sex ever, usually, unless they're open to a polyamorous relationship, which the majority of people I know aren't, but some people are, as in my book. You know, like an asexual person is capable of physically, in some cases, enjoying sex, but if they are not liking sex and they're repulsed by it, then their body would usually tense up from the anxiety and the stress and the worry of doing it, and they usually wouldn't enjoy it anyway, because they'd be doing it out of pressure, out of ill feeling, out of a feeling that they don't even want it. And why would you do that to someone you love? You wouldn't be wanting to push them into something you know. I'm listening to you. Oh, thank you, Roshan. That's good. Because I can't see which particular people are still listening. Yeah, so So for me, I'm personally sex repulsed these days. I'm an asexual that has had sex in the past. Before I found out I was asexual, I discovered I was am asexual in 2014 when I couldn't bring myself to have sex anymore. The last time I had sex was nearly 10 years ago in October 2011. And then I've never really been into sex. It was consensual in the past. I didn't hate it like I do now. I just wasn't bothered about it. Didn't really like it that much. I'd rather be doing other stuff. But my last long-time ex was good at that. But we would go 2 or 3 months sometimes without doing that, and that really suited me. And it was because he was nice to me during that time that I did that with him, really, rather than for the sex itself. I just preferred to kiss, really. And at that point, I liked some touching, which I'm not really into anymore. And then, and so I didn't date for nearly a year after that, till 2012. Then when I started dating, it was really like, I don't want sex, and that was kept cropping up. And till eventually I saw a counsellor, and she said I would need to have sex in order to keep a good guy. And I thought that was really bad, because obviously, it's the worst thing she could have said to me, because I don't want sex, don't like it, don't need it, don't want to ever have it again in my life. And to say a good guy, I'd have to have sex in order to keep a good guy, that isn't a good guy. If a guy wants me to do something that I don't want to do, that makes me uncomfortable and I don't like, that's not a good guy. And if he's saying you have to have sex in order for me to love you and stay with you, that's a really bad guy who does that, right? It means it's conditional. The love is conditional. It's like having a contract with someone when you're doing stuff with them that you don't want to do. It's horrible. And so anyway, I left the counsellor. I Googled I love kissing but not sex, and that's when I discovered asexuality. And then I researched it for 3 weeks, where I thought I fell in the asexual spectrum. And then I came out as asexual to my family, which my parents, my mum and dad, because I'm an only child, so that was received well. By them, I'm pleased to say. So the second phone call, they're like, oh, it sounds like you. So I think they must have Googled it. And then the first friend I told was really bad experience, because I was very wishy-washy at that time. It's kind of, I think I'm asexual, rather than like I am asexual like I am now. I definitely know I am, And so, yeah, she's like, oh, but you're always talking about guys. You really like someone. Come on, you just haven't found the right guy yet, and all the other rubbish that asexuals get told or asked or, spoken like about when they first find out they're asexual, and they're kind of like not confident with it. This is what people say to us. But back then I was very, I was very kind of like timid about it. And I had a gay friend in work as well, which was also friends with that person, and he was really bad about my asexuality. It completely changed the relationship between me and him, like, the friendship relationship. And it took them a year to come to terms with the fact I was asexual, and everyone else in my day job was fine about it, but then so after a year they just finally gave up, because I kept going. I was that strong and confident by then, and talking about it, and that I hold asexual meetups, and, I'm in asexual groups, I'm in asexual forums, blah blah blah. I couldn't stop talking about it. They just got so fed up that they gave in, trying to protest against my own identity, and trying to basically object to it, which you shouldn't be doing. No one should be objecting to your sexuality. What does it matter to them anyway? Why should anyone care what sexuality you are? As long as you're not hurting anyone, what does it matter, And if people get hurt or offended by the fact that you're asexual and not wanting sex, then that's their business. That's their problem, not yours, right? So personally, I'm sex repulsed. For me, I'm not sex repulsed for other people, so I can talk about sex. If people like sex and enjoy it, and it's consensual by everyone involved, that's fine. Go for gold. Really happy for you. I want people to be happy. There's nothing wrong with sex if that's what you like and that you're into and you enjoy, and you find it's good for you. I have no problem about that. But for me, I'm repulsed by it personally, for me. So I can't stand it. I don't like the idea of it. I don't want the guys bitting me. I'm naked repulsed. I'm not even interested in genitalia. Only interested in guy from the waist up. Is there any chance or chance that asexuality can change into heterosexual? No, because asexuality is something you're usually born with and don't realise. As a blank statement, no. I mean, I thought I was heterosexual for years, but I didn't realise that I didn't experience sexual attraction until I came across asexuality. And then I realized that arousal and sexual attraction are two completely different things. You can get something called demisexual, which is on the asexual spectrum. And so therefore you could get someone, you know, they are not, so it's difficult to describe. So asexuality is a sexual orientation that is the lack of sexual attraction. So they're people that are asexual genuinely don't have any sexual attraction whatsoever. But then asexuality is also used as in a second way to describe the spectrum of asexuals and the different types. So asexuality is a sexual orientation where no one experiences sexual attraction, but you've also got an asexual spectrum that people identify as asexual wherever they are on that spectrum. And the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum is a part before the sexuals begin. So there are sometimes crossovers. So for example, usually a sex repulsed asexual would not change into a heterosexual. However, because you can't, it's not something like you're not, you know, asexuality is not something you're not holding yourself back from having sex. You're not being frigid. You're not broken. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not a disease or an illness or a sickness. You know, you just don't have a desire, need, or want for sex built in you, right? That feeling of not wanting or needing sex is wired in you, hardwired in you. So it's not like you're holding yourself back. You don't have those urges in the first place to have sex. That's a point. Because some people say to me, how do you control their urges? I'm like, I don't have urges. That's the point of being asexual. A sexual attraction is all about when you have the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse. So you will look at people, go think, oh God, I wish I could have sex with that person. That is sexual attraction. When you look at someone and want sex. I never looked at any of my ex-partners, anyone I've ever loved, and ever actually thought I want sex with you. It's never computed in my brain. I did it because it's kind of like something they wanted and I went along with it, and I didn't consent to all of it, unfortunately, but and that, you know, that guy's out of my life now, but you know, and that obviously, you know, if it's not consensual, it's rape, just so you know, and sexual abuse, just to be quite blunt about it. Right. I prefer to think of those as bad incidents in my life that I don't really go into depth talking about. But yeah, hey. So, but I had last sexual relationship I had was a good experience. So I don't, you know, I had sex after my bad experiences. I've had 2 bad experiences and I've had sex with 5 guys. And, you know, so I've had sex after those bad experiences. So it didn't change me. If I wanted to have sex again, if I said tomorrow, you know, like, I'm still asexual, but hey, I've decided to have sex anyway because I just want to have it now. I just want to try it again. I just want to do it. I would go and do it because it's my life and I can do what I want. And an asexual can still choose to have sex if they want, but they can't choose their sexual orientation. They can't choose, oh, I want to be heterosexual now and not be asexual. It doesn't work like that because it's your genuine sexual orientation. And if you're sex repulsed, you automatically would not usually choose to have sex because you're repulsed by sex. You hate sex. That's like in asking someone to eat something that they detest and they're likely to throw up over. You wouldn't ask someone to do that. Why would you ask someone to do that and make themselves poorly? You wouldn't. So no one can change into being, you know, like different sexuality as such. There are some people that talk about sexuality being fluid. There is something called ace flux. So with ace flux people, they can fluctuate across the asexual spectrum. So they could fluctuate between experiencing no sexual attraction whatsoever and then being on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, which means sometimes they might experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, specific circumstances. And there is something called the ace flux has another definition, which they can fluctuate between the asexual spectrum and sexual spectrum. Right? That is their actual orientation, though. So they are used to fluxing up and down it, fluctuating up and down it. That's their actual identity, rather than them changing from one thing to another on purpose or pushing themselves to do that, which they can't do. This is how they normally identify. So you might find that there's someone who identifies as a heterosexual demisexual. They might not class themselves as asexual whatsoever, and someone might. And a demisexual is someone who can only experience sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed and is on the very grey end of the asexual spectrum. But that person would then be classed as sexual in that way if they were, you know, experiencing the usual sexual attraction whilst in that relationship, but they still identify on the asexual spectrum usually because it's not normal. Like they might experience that with just one person in their life and they don't get it with anyone else in the world, for example. And so it gets very, very complicated. But I just want to make it clear that no one can push themselves or force themselves to change. And if you're in a relationship with someone, never ever get into a relationship with someone believing they will change. You should never do that because you're under false pretenses. You're not loving the person for who they are. You're loving the person for who you think they should be or could be or might be in the future. And that type of that type of feeling in a relationship is not good because there's always an underlying agenda. There's always this thing that maybe they'll change. I won't get into a relationship with a sexual and think maybe they'll change and become asexual. They're not going to become asexual. They can't change their identity. They can't change their sexual orientation. I can't make someone who's a heterosexual become asexual. You know, asexuality isn't something like you can put a jacket on and all of a sudden today I'll become asexual. It doesn't work like it's a sexual orientation. So I can't make someone who's heterosexual then be asexual. I get people saying that to me. They come in my chat going, hey, I'm like a heterosexual person, but I really love this asexual life you're leading and I really want to be like you or have that type of lifestyle. Please, can you tell me how to make myself asexual? I'm like, it's not a lifestyle choice. I'm not abstaining from sex. I'm not celibate. And, you know, like, as in, I'm not practicing celibacy. You know, I genuinely do not experience sexual attraction. I do not look at, even if a guy is very, very hot looking, gorgeous, aesthetically, really beautiful, really into him, really want to snog his face off. I can kiss a guy for 3 hours and I'll never want sex with him. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter how much I love him, how aesthetically attractive to him, how much other attractions I have for him. I just don't experience sexual attraction whatsoever. Nothing, diddly squat. Roshan, were in relationship since 3 years and she can't feel sexual attraction or sexual desire, yet it means she's not demisexual, right? Yes, she's not demisexual, usually. From what, yeah, we're in a relationship since 3 years and she can't feel sexual attraction or sexual desire. Yes, she's not demisexual. Demisexual people usually know a lot of the time that there are demisexual right from the beginning. So yes, she wouldn't be demisexual. Demisexual is when you form a deep emotional connection with someone, and considering you've been together for 3 years, it's, you know, likely you've got a emotional bond, right? And so she's, you know, she's a sex repulsed asexual who I would say from what you told me, she doesn't want sex, doesn't need it, doesn't like it in her life. And so, you know, if you want to stay in that relationship with her, you've got to decide whether being with her is more important than having sex ever in your life, or whether it's more important for you to have sex and thus you cannot stay with her and have to break up with her, you know. But obviously there's an in-between situation where she might want to do some sexual acts. In my experience, many sex repulsed asexuals don't want to do any sexual acts either. But that might be something you could ask her if she, you know, like, does she like any touching whatsoever, for example? Maybe she likes naked cuddles. Maybe that's as far as you're going to get, you know? But obviously, you know, like some people are saying, say, all right, so say I be in a relationship with an asexual person who's sex repulsed. How do I satisfy the sexual need? Well, you masturbate yourself. You get very, very, very good at masturbating yourself. You can get excellent at that. You just practice it. Practice different techniques, different ways of doing things, different positions with yourself. So you act like you're having sex with yourself and you just try different things. It really works, you know. I never used to talk about masturbation years ago. Now I think I'm becoming like knowledgeable about it. So yeah, so you just have fun with yourself. You learn how to pleasure yourself to the extent that it completely satisfies you, so that you don't need to look without you know, externally to get that satisfaction. If you're getting pleasure from being in a relationship with her, yeah, you can please yourself. I don't need porn. I hate porn. I don't look at porn to masturbate. I don't need that stimulus. You know, people can just masturbate with the power of their mind and thinking about stuff that turns them on. They can talk sexually if they want to themselves, or something that turns them on to themselves. They can paint their own pictures in their mind. They can say stuff that will activate their arousal sensors without ever watching porn. I think I should maybe write a book on that for sexuals one day, because I think people don't realise there's a lot of porn addicts, for example, people that don't understand that they don't have to watch that in order to get turned on. But if they start actually honing in on their own body and what makes them sexually or turned on or aroused, then they can do stuff for themselves. They don't even need another person to satisfy that. What do you think people are on their own for, people that are on their own for years who do have a high sex drive, or they have high arousal levels and want to relieve that arousal, what do you think they do? They have to please themselves, don't they? Right? So, you know what I mean? It's a skill. Learn the skill of pleasuring yourself, giving yourself great whatever sessions, and then you've got the partner who's lovely, been with for 3 years. You've got the best of both worlds, haven't you? Pleasure yourself, so you're really nice and high on pleasurable chemicals for yourself, and then enjoy being with them. You have a nice balance there then, don't you? Right? So you don't actually need sex. But if you feel that you cannot ever live forever without sex, then you should obviously talk to the asexual sex repulsed person, but don't expect them to think it's going to be great, because they might think, well, I've been in a relationship with you for 3 years, I'm sex repulsed, you've always known that, now you're trying to change our dynamic of our relationship. So I wouldn't go at it from a I've got to change you point of view. I would go from it like, I know that you said you're sex repulsed and I understand that, do you like any type, I was thinking, do you like any type of touching at all? Because obviously you have to ask the other person what she likes. Only then will you find out if there's anything that she likes that you don't actually know about that might give you more pleasure as well, But likely if they're a sex repulsed asexual, they're not going to want sex. I mean, you obviously know more than I do about what you should do after 3 years, what they like and what they don't like. But some people, they just don't have these conversations. You have to have open, honest communication and conversation. Like, how much touching do you like? How much kissing do you like? Where do you like to be kissed? Where do you like to be touched? What is too much for you? What is too little for you? In terms of touching me, what type of places would you like to touch me? How would you feel about me? If I was naked, do you mind me being naked in front of you? How do you feel about that? Do you want to touch any part of my body? For me personally, if I have a sexual person say to me, like I've had sexual people say to me, okay, I won't do stuff to you. Anything you don't want me to do, I won't do. But for my body, you can touch me however much you want and whatever way you want, and have my, guys go to me like this, like, oh, my body's like yours, do what you like with it. That's what they tell me. So I can have free reign of doing whatever I want with their body, basically, whatever I like and don't like. And that eases the pressure. I feel that if you do it in such a way that you're kind of inviting them to do what they like to you, if you like anything done to you, or, then it's up to them whether they do it or not. If you're telling them, I really like this, in kind of this tone of voice, it makes them feel pressurized, like they can't give you what you want, therefore they shouldn't be in a relationship with you, therefore they're holding you back and stuff like that. Roshan, she has 5 or 6 sexual trauma in her childhood that she doesn't even want to remember. Did it help her to be asexual in any sense? Okay, so that's a really difficult question. So being asexual is not the same as having sexual abuse and not wanting sex because of the sexual abuse. However, if the person does not experience any sexual attraction, whether they've had abuse or not, they can still count themselves as asexual, because asexual is the sexual orientation that is the lack of sexual attraction. There is someone in my Asexual Perspectives book who used to identify as a heterosexual, right? But she later on in life lost all sexual attraction, never got that back. She's married to a very highly sexual guy. And so she did later in life identify as asexual, right? So she changed from identifying as heterosexual to asexual because she just lost all sexual attraction. There are some people in life that lose all sexual attraction for whatever reason, and then they identify as asexual because, like I said, you can get people with ace flux, but there are some people that believe that sexuality is fluid. I'm not saying I believe that, but there are some people that believe that sexuality is fluid. However, I have observed there was a lesbian in one of my old jobs, and she hated this guy, and she later got with this guy and she had a kid with him. So she went from being a lesbian to then being in a relationship with the guy she didn't like and having a child with him. So people can change, right? I'm not saying no one can change, but you should never expect them to, right? And, you know, and if she has some sexual trauma in her childhood that she doesn't want to remember, it doesn't matter. If she doesn't want to remember it, don't force the issue, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Wherever she is in her life now, you have to meet her where she is. The number one mistake many people make in relationships, is they try to be with the person they want that person to be, not the person they actually are. The potential of that person, or even what that person used to be if the person's changed, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the reason why someone identifies as asexual. What you've got to understand is they identify as asexual now in this moment, and that's who you're in a relationship with, regardless of their background, regardless of if they were naturally born as asexual or if something changed them to make them asexual. I always say you can't be made asexual, but there are a few people in the community that have had some sexual trauma that then do identify as asexual. Some of those are you know, like, have never experienced sexual attraction. Others may have, right? I'm a person who's experienced sexual abuse twice, but that's not why I'm asexual. I've had sex after both of those times. My last long-term relationship was in for 8.5 years, which was abusive, but not sexually. He was very good sexually. So that's why I liked the time with him, you know, and I was sexually abused twice before him. And I had, like I said, I had sex with the other guys. And if I was, you know, if I didn't have sex because, you know, I'm not having sex because of bad experience, because my last experience was good. Sometimes I think about having it with someone else because I didn't, you know, considering the last guy I had it with, I was with 8.5 years, and he was very abusive in every way, but sexually not. He was kind, caring, thoughtful, would stop at any minute. I didn't want to do that. And so he was like a completely different person. And that's why I liked that time with him. And I'm glad he was like that. So my last experience was good. Sometimes I think maybe I should have it again with someone else, just so it's not my last ex I had, kind of like to change that. But I'm that sex repulsed, and I can't just have sex for the sake of it. And, you know, so then I quickly get rid of that idea out of my brain, because I don't really want it. I don't really like it. It'd be just having it for the sake of it, to say I've done it with someone else after him. And it's kind of like, who would I even do that with anyway? And I don't even want to do that. And I'm naked repulsed and I hate sex. So why am I even thinking that way? I think it's just, like I said, it's just purely for the fact that the last person I did it with, it's kind of like I talk a lot in these videos about the last person I did it with. But whatever the last person is that I did it with, I always remember as the last person I did it with. So it doesn't really matter who it's with. It doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is, if it was a different person, I'd be remembering them all the time and talking about them. And I don't really want to talk about other guys. So what's the point? I'm getting myself in a muddle now, but you know what I mean. Basically, you know, like, it's hard to talk about the last time I had sex, because the guy I was with for 8.5 years, and kind of it brings it back repetitively. Then I was with him, and I think about the relationship with him. So then I still dream about him because I do this channel, but I'm doing it to help you guys. It's just difficult trying to, like, remember past relationships all the time. And that's why it's good to just let it go. You know, if you've got a sex repulsed asexual, you've been with her for years, you have to love her for the person she is now, not for the person she was or the person she might be in the future. You have to love the person as now, right? You can't go around thinking, oh, maybe she'll change her mind, because that's hardly ever likely to happen. You know what I mean? It's I have sex repulsed asexual friends, and they just don't change their mind, because it's not a mind thing. It's who they actually are. And if they're sex repulsed, then they're sex repulsed. They hate sex. They don't like it, don't want it, don't need it. You know? And so, you know, I do get other sexuals, not just yourself, that have approached me, and they say, oh, well, I'm talking to this girl and she's had some sexual abuse in her past, and, you know, I'm thinking that's why she's asexual. And it's like, you know, there's sexual people that have been abused. I've had sexual friends in the past that have had sexual abuse. It doesn't make them be asexual. They're still sexually attracted to people. They still have sex with people, but they've still had sexual abuse. It doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are. You can still have had sexual abuse. And it doesn't change, you know, it doesn't change your sexual orientation. But like I said, there are a few people that identify as asexual because they just don't experience sexual attraction for whatever reason. And to be honest, all that matters is their heart and their soul and their personality in this moment. The past shouldn't really affect how your relationship is now, because that's gone. You can't change that. They can't change that. Bringing up old trauma is just going to make them not trust you. because it's going to feel like you're dragging up their past, their hurtful past, and you're replaying it in their brain. It's actually going to be very damaging. Instead, you should be fostering love, care, and commitment in the present and developing a beautiful future with that person. Thinking, God, I'm sorry they went through all that shit. I really am. I do not want to put them through that again. I understand them. I love them for who they are, and I cherish them. And I'm going to be the person that they need me to be and love them for who they are. You know, I've done it myself where I've gone thinking that this guy has got potential, because maybe I talked to a guy and in the beginning he was a really, really nice guy. And he showered me with compliments like they do, and he gave me a lot of affection, maybe it wasn't even in person, it was in video chat. And he really talked about, like, this has happened to me this year. Sis, you're a queen. Thank you, my life. Lots of love. So, you know, I've had guys before and they've plowed me with compliments, and they've been all, you know, like, kind of like virtue over me like a rash, if you like. They've been really stuck on me, really into me, really, you know, really kind of pursuing me, wanting to me to be with them. And then after some time, could be a very short time, they'll kind of pull back and they'll start acting weird, like different. And I always get fixated on the person I first met, because I, being me, am very honest and open, as you can see, and I'm myself always. I don't change for someone when I've met them initially, and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 days, 5 days, 2 weeks, 7 days, 7 weeks, or whatever time later. I don't change the way I am, right? I am consistent and persistent. I don't change my behavior. I don't start acting weird like that. I don't change how I feel for someone, right? But many people, they act differently in the beginning. And so, but what I do, which is kind of my mistake, if you like, or you could argue that it's kind of they're deceiving me, but maybe they're not intentionally deceiving me. You know, what I do is I think, God, that's the type of person I want to be with in the beginning. And when they've changed, I can't get how they were in the beginning out of my head. And I think, God, but he was so nice in the beginning. He was exactly the person I wanted in the beginning. And I keep staying with that person or communicating with that person for the potential he could be, because I saw that in him in the beginning. If you understand what I mean, I'll repeat that. So I stay with him for the potential of what he was in the beginning, despite the fact he's changed. Right? And so therefore, this is not good, because I am basically living for a fantasy or for something that I thought was real, but then kind of like wasn't actually fully real, because they were not presenting the full truth to me. And some of them have literally thought of me as, you know, like their fantasy. They fantasize over me and they're infatuated with me, but they don't really love me. And so this wears off very quickly. And I have quite a lot of guys that do this with me, and it's horrible. I've been there in the past. Oh, bless you, my life. Lots of love. You know, this is, you know, this happened to me even this year, right? I'm gradually getting over that person now. Someone I thought was my Indian asexual soulmate, you know, and he's not. And I'm gradually getting over that, enjoying being on my own more, and I'm getting more and more away from those feelings, but it's taking some time, a bit longer than I thought. But I'm glad I'm progressing now, you know. But this person was really into me, and it seems like when the office opened, when the pandemic was a bit more calmed down, that I was surplus to requirements. And now there's a lot of people on the internet doing internet dating, and it's because they're lonely. And then what they do is they go on the internet, they start dating. And as soon as their company opens back up, their office or their shop opens, they're like, I haven't got time for a relationship now, and they're off. And they kind of used you. And it's like, what's going on? Right? And so, excuse me, it's very sad, but it's happening, you know. People do extreme things when they're sad and lonely, which is why it's never good to get into a relationship with anyone when someone's sad or lonely, because they're coming from a place of lack and thinking of themselves and being very self-centered. I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose, but I'm saying that's how it is, really. They're coming from a place of, I want, I need, I'm lonely now, I'm cut off from my friends and the outside world, really need someone to talk to and be there. And that's really their main motive, right? It's, you know, it's okay if you've got that kind of like, you know, you're feeling that way, but when it's the main motive for trying to instigate a relationship with someone or a connection with someone, it's not good. it became hard for me to trust people when I got in relationships. Bless you, my life. Yeah, it is really difficult. It is really difficult. That's why I have relationship anxiety. I think, you know, it's just a lot of people, they just change. But I have to know that not everyone's like that. And that's why I need to take my time to get to know someone. But you know what my hyper-romanticism is like? I hold my hand up to that. My hyper-romanticism says, hey, I'm feeling romantic now. I've got to go seven, like the wind, and quickly speed things up, you know? So that's something that personally is just like part of my hyper-romanticism traits that I try to manage, but it sometimes gets out of hand. And I think I'm doing well, and then a guy will come along and they'll be like, oh God, I'm back to square one again. I did it again. Stop it, Sandra. But you know, like, I'm trying to sort it out. Eventually, hopefully I'll sort it out. But I'm better than what I was. So yeah. But yeah, Roshan, have I answered all your questions that you've got at the moment? I just think, you know, with your asexual girl, you need to love her for who she is and stop worrying about what happened in the past, because whatever happened, she is who she is now, and you've got to love the person she is and be with her for who she is. And if she doesn't want sex ever, then you've got to respect that and ask yourself, can you still be with her for the rest of your life without sex with someone else? You know, do stuff to pleasure yourself, really. That's what you've got to find out and ask yourself. Obviously, you can have open conversations with her. Don't, you know, if it comes to the stage where you're thinking about leaving, don't just up and leave. Talk things through and see if there's any compromise whatsoever, you know. But like I said, for me personally, if I've got a sexual guy and he says to me, oh, you can do what you like to me, that just gives me free reign. I just feel so much more comfortable because, you know, I love kissing and I love being sensual with the guy's upper body. So I like touching the guy's shoulders and, you know, kissing his little earlobes and kissing down his nose, kissing all down his chest. Then when I get to the top of his trousers, I stop. That drives kind of sexual guys kind of crazy and wild. And I know it does, because I've been in sexual relationships in the past. I can actually turn a sexual guy on very easily, too easily, unfortunately, without even trying, like just by kissing him, without doing any of that. So really, I need an asexual guy who likes sensual pleasure but doesn't need the sex. That's what I kind of need. The guy who likes kissing and sensual pleasure without sex. My life, even now, despite knowing what my boyfriend is like, I occasionally have trauma questions of, what if he's just hoping I'll change? What if he's with me because I was born female and he'd think that it'd be... Yeah, it is difficult, my life, because obviously, because that'd be easier than a relationship with a guy, etc. Yeah, it is really difficult. I think that asexual and sexual mixed relationships are harder. I think, you know, more power to people who can get involved in that. I think it's very difficult. I don't think it's easy. Probably it's difficult for both people to a certain extent. Even though I don't want sex, obviously I understand that, because I've got sexual friends, I understand that some sexuals really have really big sexual needs. Exactly, yeah. So, you know, it isn't always easy, but if someone's sex repulsed, if someone accepts their sex repulse when they get with them, they can't really turn around then and say, oh, well, I expect you to change, or I want you to change, or I need you to change, or I'm hoping you change, because don't get into a relationship with thinking that. It's not healthy. Communication is important, exactly. You know, like I said, don't just, you know, if you are thinking you'd like more sexual stuff, then don't just leave the relationship, but don't make that person feel like you're going to leave them if you don't do that. Because otherwise they're just going to, their trust is going to go like that. Once you've lost trust in the relationship, it's hard to get it back or have any type of relationship ongoing. You'd have to do it in kind of like, you know, like a fun way. Like if it happens, it's great. If it doesn't, I'm cool with it not happening, you know. Relationship tip, make a boundaries chart. Yeah, I mean, you should have boundaries of what you can touch and what you can't touch. Like I said, I mean, me personally, with sexual guys I've been in relationships with, they've just said, oh, you can do what you like to my body. That's what they've told me categorically. And I personally have loved that, because I can have free reign to do what I like then without question, because they said, I like everything, doesn't matter what you do to me. And it's very good for me, because it means that they understand still that I've told them where they can and cannot touch. They just go, I'm not like you, so you can do whatever you want to me. But I just feel that's less pressurizing. If a guy is saying to me, come on, I want you to suck my blah, 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 or I want you to do this to me. Why? Because I really want it, because I really like it. That's aggressive to me and hostile. And that makes me want to just run away from him and gross out. right? Because he's pressurizing. He's using a tone of voice that's commanding and dominant, right? That's horrible. I'd still ask and be nervous to do anything. Yeah, I mean, you've got to have person's consent. If a guy says to me, sexual guy says to me, you can do what you like, then, you know, I mean, obviously I don't do BDSM stuff anyway, so I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt him. You know, and you go by the person's body expression. You know, if a person's given consent for me to do whatever I like, then, you know, you can do whatever you like within reason. I mean, I don't do horrible stuff anyway, so he's not gonna. There's nothing I do that he might not like. But obviously, I'll you know, when you're going along like doing any sexual stuff, you'd ask the person how it feels, if they're enjoying it, if they're not enjoying it. You'd be able to tell sometimes if they're enjoying it without even asking. You know, it's like when you're touching body parts, you can find out, you know, is that too hard? Is that too soft? Is it good for you? How does that feel for you? And all this type of thing, right? So sometimes I might ask the guy, like, how are you feeling about this? Do you like this? And stuff like that. But sometimes you can just tell the guy's really into it. Depends how his body reacts, right? So, you know, I kind of like, you know, because I'm very sensual with the guy's upper body, you know, he get lots of kisses on his upper body, do you know what I mean? Which he usually likes. But I mean, in the past, when I was doing sexual touching, you know, my ex would tell me if I was touching him too hard or doing stuff too hard and stuff. So, you know, he would let me know, like, oh, that's too hard, honey, or that's too rough, honey, you know, like, can you calm down a bit or slow down or do this differently, right? So, you know, it's really important that, you know, you discuss things and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. You know, all asexuals are different. No two asexuals are the same. So why it's really important, like my life says, to have really open, honest communication, because that's the only way you can find out about anything. Like when I meet guys now, I just blatantly start saying I'm asexual. This is what it means for me. Like, I don't like sex. And if they say they like sex in a relationship, I'll say, fine, I understand. We're not suitable for each other. Wish you luck. Right? Because that's it. I just, you know, they've disqualified themselves. If they want sex, I can't do that relationship. That's it. They're off. Why waste my time or theirs and heartache and pain when we've got attached to each other? You know, it's just pointless. One of the best things to do when you come across someone for a relationship is ask them, what are you looking for in a relationship? Like, what are you looking for in a relationship? What type of relationship are you looking for? Right? What type of physical things do you like to do in a relationship? You know, how much touching do you like in a relationship? How much do you not like? But I mean, most people shouldn't be talking about that when they first meet. But with asexuals, a lot of the time we do talk about it up front, because if someone wants sex and we don't, it's kind of like, you know, it's just no point in carrying on like for years and months. You know, I just cut to the chase, because if someone guy likes sex and I don't, I'm just like, that's fine. But we're not for each other, because it just saves so much heartache and pain. It's like, next, right? You know, next, where's the next guy? You know, there's going to be a guy out there for me eventually, unless I decide that just I'm really like being on my own, because I do like being single a lot. Actually, has a lot of benefits to it. And I'm kind of used to, I like living on my own and stuff. I'm so used to being on my own now, so I might just be happier on my own forever. Who knows? But and just kiss guys occasionally. Oh, my hyper-romanticism. You know, but yes, so I do still like Indian guys. My life, I did up front, because after several relationships of people trying to change me, I decided I had to say it up front. Good. Yeah, I think with asexuals, you really do have to just, like you say things up front. Like, I was on Facebook dating for a long time, off and on. I've come off there now. I'm get really tempted to go back on there, because I do believe that it might be possible for me to find someone on there, because I'm on Facebook loads of thousands of people on Facebook, including asexuals. But a lot of the time they just want sex. The majority are out for sex. But I have, you know, I get to talk to those different guys on there. But at the moment I'm too busy with other stuff anyway. And it just takes up so much time, and it gets a bit obsessive. I'm like there for 4 hours trying to like message people and talk to people, and you know what I mean? Even though I say I hate sex, I still get guys coming in my inbox. And so, you know, even if I say I don't like sex, they still take no notice of it a lot of the time. They're like, yes, but eventually you'll want it, won't you? I'm like, no, that's not the point. I don't want it. Why? What do I hate sex? What does I hate sex mean? Does it mean I hate sex and then all of a sudden I like it? Does it mean I hate sex, but really I'm just waiting out for the right guy? Does it mean I hate sex, but I'm abstaining? No, when I say I hate sex, take it as face value. It's like when someone says to you, I am not a commitment type of person. Do not ignore that. Do not get with someone in a relationship and try and make them be committed to you, or try and get them to commit to you. Take people as they are. If someone says, I don't want a relationship, do not pursue them. If someone says, I don't want commitment, and you want commitment, don't pursue them. Listen to what people say rather than what you wished they were, if that makes sense. My life, I did several test runs to see my boyfriend's reaction to my asexuality and gender by explaining them in ELA presentations and skimming over it in conversations before we started dating. I think that's very, very good. My life, good advice. I'm not sure what ELA is. Then went more in depth as we started and conversation evolved through time. I think that's really good. You know, I think as asexuals, we just have to remember that we're very valuable people. We have a heart of gold, most of us. We're very loving people. In my personal opinion, I'm obviously going to be biased towards asexuals. I think asexual love is the very purest form of love because it comes from the personality, the heart and soul of the person. You know, and so it's not about the body. It's about the heart, the mind, and the soul, which are the three most important things, because body can change over time, but our soul will live on forever. So if you've got someone who loves you in the purest sense of the word, and they love you from their soul, to me, that's just irreplaceable and priceless, you know? It's like deep love, deeper than you'll probably ever experience in your life. I mean, Ella is English language arts. Oh, thank you, my life. You know, if you come across and they, like, for example, I really would love to be in a relationship with another asexual. I know I said a few minutes ago that I like being single, but if I met the right asexual guy, I would love to be, you know, if I met the right asexual guy where I wasn't nervous around him all the time, I could feel comfortable and like we were meant to be and we're best friends and everything, you know, I just know that love I would have for him would outperform and outbeat any type of love I've ever felt for anyone in my life before, because I know that when you are with another asexual, your heart and theirs is like this. If you're two asexuals particularly, because there's no sexual barrier, there's nothing, there's no intensity, you know, like when you've got sexual energy, it can feel like, you know, obviously I'm respectful to the fact there's sexuals watching this, but for me personally, right, sexual energy can be like kind of like daggers like coming at you, like sexual energy, right? I'm trying to describe this as best as I can, right? But when another asexual comes with love, there's no daggers pointing at you. It's like there's pure love. I love you without any sex, no genitalia involved. I love your personality. I love your soul. I love you with all my heart. I can see your heart. We're two hearts. We're here. There's no sexual energy coming between us, no sexual vibration, nothing trying to go to come in between us. We're just here and we just love each other and we're just intertwined in our souls and we can feel each other and we can be together forever and we can just feel the hearts as one. I just think it's so gorgeous. I really, really do. That's why I love asexual love. I've been in heterosexual relationships for a long, long time in my past. And I have never, ever felt bonded to asexuals the way I do even to my asexual friends and people in the asexual community. I haven't felt any like strong emotional connection before like I have since I found out I was asexual, basically. I think I might be able to be bonded more with people in general. I think I'm able to easily connect with people. But I find it harder to ever become completely emotionally connected to a sexual guy. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think it's very difficult. You know, because of the sexual attraction, because of the sexual energy, it's kind of a barrier in some ways, right? And also, you've got to understand how difficult it is for an asexual person to be with a sexual, what they're sacrificing. They are sacrificing, right? Because obviously a lot of the time the media's like, oh, poor sexuals, they're hard done by because they're not having sex. They chose to be with the asexual, right? They chose to be with them, right? They're still getting a beautiful personality, a beautiful soul, someone who loves them without their genitalia needed, you know? And so you're getting a beautiful person, and that is worth something. You shouldn't value a person's worth by how much sex you are or are not having with them about their genitalia, right? You should value the person for who they are. And you should just understand that an asexual person is giving up. They are giving up the possibility of being with another asexual person. So they are more likely to be nervous when being in a relationship with a sexual person, that they might leave them at any given moment. They are more likely to be more tense because they know the sexual person really wants sex, even if they don't want it. They're more likely to be able to feel a bit guilty or bad that they can't give their partner sex when their partner wants it. You've got to understand that asexuals make sacrifices too by being with sexuals. They are giving up. If they're monogamous, they're giving up the possibility of finding someone that's more like them, that might be more compatible, more suited. So you have to understand the sacrifice that asexuals are making for sexuals. My life, it's weird that I prefer the grey ace flag with the grey on the outside and the purple on the inside, because I don't like it with purple on the outside. Roshan, she does not want to give birth in future. That's normal for a sex repulsed asexual. I've never wanted kids since I was 15 years old. Still never changed my mind on that. And if many asexuals don't want kids at all, and those that do, the majority, not all, the majority would not conceive naturally because they don't want sex. If she doesn't, I wouldn't want to give birth. I hate the idea. It's painful. And why would I want that in my body? I'm very pregnancy repulsed, by the way. Disclaimer, I'm pregnancy repulsed. I can't stand pregnancy. It makes me feel right. So I know that that's not true for asexuals. Some asexuals still want kids. Some want it by natural means. By no means am I a representative of asexuals, but I will say many sex repulsed asexuals, the majority, do not want to have children, and those that do not want to have it naturally. They would have it by maybe artificial insemination, or they would adopt. Adoption is usually most of the preference for people. And there is loads of kids out there that need a good home. So why not look into adoption? But if the person doesn't want kids, they don't want kids. But again, these are all the stuff you should be finding out when you first start a relationship or dating. But most people don't know this because people are not given relationship skills. They're not taught this at school. They're not taught all these things. You should be asking all the deal breakers up front. You should be asking, so do you want sex? Do you want marriage? Do you want kids? Where do you see your life in 1 year's time? Where do you see your life year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? How are you going to, what's your plans? Are you going to travel the globe? Are you going to go to college, go to university? What type of job do you want? What type of house do you want? Are you the type of person that loves traveling and taking years out of your life to go and travel? Are you a person who wants to settle down? You're a homebody? All these type of things should be discussed before you get into a relationship. It's a lot harder once you're in one if you find out it's not compatible, but because of sexual attraction. A lot of the time, because of sexual attraction, this is when people end up in relationships that are not compatible, because it's the sexual attraction that's attracted the person in the first place without taking into consideration the practicality of being with that person in an actual relationship on a day-to-day basis. But asexuals, a lot of them don't know what they want. This is why it's so hard to find a compatible asexual person. The number of asexuals that I've come across, I want a relationship. Okay, so how would that look like to you? What do you mean? How would that look like on a day-to-day basis? Tell me, describe it. Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. So you can't be serious about wanting a relationship then. If you want a relationship, you should have thought out, how is that going to be on a day-to-day basis? How many times a week do you want to see that person? Do you want to live with them? Do you not want to live with them? Do you want to share a bed? Do you not want to share a bed? Do you want sex? Do you want marriage? Do you want kids? Do you want to do some sex acts? Do you want to not do any sex acts? Do you like nudity? Do you not mind it? Do you hate nudity? Do you want, if you're asexual that doesn't mind having sex, how frequently would you want it? When will you invade Denmark? I have no idea what that question is whatsoever. I do not get involved. I do not get involved in politics, and I do not get involved in religious stuff, and I don't watch the news. But I'm glad you found it funny. My life. I did a presentation about asexuality and aromantics in my relationships class. Well done, my life. I did a presentation about asexuality and aromantics in my relationship class. My teacher asked if she could have a packet I created to give out to people, and that she wanted to research more. Brilliant. Don't forget to point to my Asexual Perspectives book. Asexual Perspectives book. Tell her to get that. One of the people who bought it on Facebook, actually, hi Facebook, because I've actually been streaming this to Facebook while I've been on YouTube. Karen, she loves my book and she always raves about it. So she gave it to her, was it a therapist, Karen? If you're watching this, you'll have to let me know. And so that the therapist could help them, help other people, basically. So I think that's amazing. You know, the more books we get out to the greater population, the better. Oh, Ahmed, lots of love, sending love for you and Pusheen. Oh yes, that's Pusheen. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Lots of love. Lovely to see you. Yes. So yeah, where were we talking about? Yeah. So you know, if you're already in a relationship with someone who's asexual and you didn't realize it to begin with, then you have to have a lot of heart-to-heart discussions, don't you? But if you already accepted someone's asexual and their sex repulse before you got into a relationship with them, you can't expect them to change. Thanks for the love, thumbs up love, by the way. My life. I'm building my team of snakes and dragons, wow, to help in the battle for Denmark. The aces invading Denmark is a meme because there's more of us in the world than there are of people in the Denmark army. Oh, thank you, my life. I know from Reddit. Yeah, I'm not on Reddit. I'm not on Reddit, even though I know there's loads of asexual forums on there. I'm not on Reddit. Yes, and I don't actually do asexual memes, which most people might find strange because the majority of the asexual community is into memes, and I don't. I've done some asexual posts with pictures and stuff and funny quotes, but I don't really do. I'm not on Instagram either. Who knows if I'll ever be on these platforms, but I do YouTube, Facebook, Twitter most of the time, and I'm pretty packed out with doing stuff because obviously I run 6 asexual groups so that's on Facebook, so that's a lot, and then I've got asexual pages, and I've got a lot of stuff going on personally at the moment. I need to finish my Asexual Guide to Sex book, Asexual Guide to Sex book, which is my next book, which I've been working on since June 2019, but unfortunately some things keep cropping up when I was supposed to publish it earlier this year. So I'm still going to be publishing that. It's just going to take a little bit longer. What's your Insta ID, my life? Oh, they want to follow you on Instagram. So anyway, yes. So is there any more questions before I go? Because I've been on this stream for like an hour and 20 something minutes, and I'm due to Skype my best asexual friend tonight. But to conclude then, you know, just remember, like I said earlier, I have got my Asexual Perspectives book, so go and get that from Amazon, Waterstones, Barnes & Noble, or you can order this from good bookshops. That's what I want to tell you, Ahmed. You know, you said you can't order it online from your country. You can go into a bookshop in your country and ask for this book because it's global. So you can just go into a bookshop and say, can I have this book in person? So you don't need to order it online. Because I know you're interested in getting the book, but you said you can't do it in your country online, but you can go and order it from a bookshop. But it's very essential that you understand different parts of the asexual spectrum and then give different perspectives on it, because one asexual person might identify as a certain type of asexual and another one might identify as the same, but they might be completely different. So you've got to understand that everyone's different, and you also should always ask how asexuality is for them. Never assume. Because I'm a heteromantic asexual, but I love snogging, like tongue kissing. That's very rare for an asexual. Most heteromantic asexuals, those that are into the opposite gender or sex, they're not into kissing that much. Little pecks, maybe tiny kisses on the lips, that's it. So I'm a very different heteromantic asexual. So this is why it's important to get different perspectives and to talk to the individual asexuals that you come across. You know, don't just like think, oh right, I've got one person's perspective and that's a person that's heteromantic, and I'm going to just take what that person says and think every person on the asexual spectrum who identifies as that is that way. That's what's wrong. That's why I wrote this book, to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. We can see different perspectives coming from people who are different parts of the spectrum, but some that others identify in the same way, but actually have different views and opinions. So French kissing for the win. Yeah, my life. I'm not giving out my Insta. I think that's good because, you know, like my life's already got boyfriend anyway, so you know what I mean. My life. Ace rulebook: cake for breakfast, garlic bread for dinner. Ace rulebook: cake for breakfast, garlic bread for dinner. I couldn't eat any of those in my life because I can't eat cake or bread. But yes, yeah. So you know, it's very French kissing for the win. That's good. Yeah. So there are not many people that like French kissing in the asexual community. There was someone wrote a post like, "What do you think of kissing?" The majority of asexuals hated kissing. They thought it was disgusting. someone said they thought it was wet. I said, is that a good thing or bad thing? They said it's they're just neutral on it. But the majority of people, they hadn't even tried kissing, or they didn't like it. The majority didn't. There was very few that actually liked it, and if they did like it, it was little kisses, like on the forehead or hand or arm, but not actually on the lips as well. So yeah, I'm very different. So you shouldn't go around thinking that one asexual is typical of every asexual. It's always best to ask them and find out what they like in terms of physicality, touching, what they're like in a relationship. Because I mean, loads of people in the asexual community love gaming. I don't do gaming. I really don't. And the majority, it's like there was a post the other day saying, in another asexual group, not one of mine, saying, oh, what would you like to talk about? Do you want to talk about anime, gaming, sci-fi, fantasy? And I just don't talk about a lot of that stuff because it's not who I am. I mean, some sci-fi stuff I like, but you know what I mean? It's not really who I am. So my life, my mum has a dairy-free, corn-free, wheat-free brownie crisp recipe. If you want me to send you a pic of it, I can email you. Well, I can't have sugar, so I'm guessing it's gonna have sugar in it or yeast in it. I can't have them. I'm really yeah, I can't have oats either. I'm wheat free, gluten free, sugar free, yeast free, grape free, dairy. I think I've mentioned dairy. Can't have spelt either or alternative wheat. So basically, I can't have much. But I do get health bars from the local shop that's pressed fruit and things like cocoa, pressed fruit and cocoa stuff. So yes, most of the bars I have are pressed fruit, to be honest. But anyway, I think I'm going to conclude this video. I want to say thank you to everyone in chat because you've been an absolute star. I've really enjoyed this show. It's been lovely talking to you all. Thank you, My Life, so much. Lots of love to you. And Roshan, thanks for all the awesome questions you posed today. I really appreciate you. And Ahmed, lots of love, my friend. And I know there's been other people watching, and some of you have been a bit quiet because you haven't been in chat, but I have been observing that you've been here. So I want to send all my love to you because you're very important. Thank you for being part of this community. If you haven't already subscribed, if you're new to this channel, subscribe now and don't forget to hit that bell icon. The bell icon is important because that's how you get notified of every time I go live like now, so you can come in chat. Or you can just observe me live, because some people don't get to see asexuals in real life at all. And so when you see another asexual in person in real life time, rather than just pre-recorded videos, it's a very wonderful, beautiful experience, because it's like you're with the person. It's like, oh wow, I got to meet a asexual in real life, not just online, if you know what I mean, because you can see that I'm here now in this moment. Sending blessings to everyone. Thank you. And thanks for the heart, Roshan. So lots of love to you all. Appreciate you being here, and I will see you on the next video or live stream. This has been an awesome chat show tonight. I'm in tonight in the UK, so but wherever you are, morning, day, whatever, I really appreciate you being here. Lots of love. I'm sending out lots and lots of love to all of you, and congratulations, Roshan, on being with an asexual for 3 years as well, and congratulations, My Life, for having the ceremony, the hand fasting ceremony, isn't it? So lots of love to you, and thanks, Ahmed, for coming here and always talking and leaving good comments as well. Lots of love to you all. I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Take care. Blessings to you all. Lots of love. Bye.